Hello YouTube, welcome to a new video. Today I have something a bit different than usual. Basically, I recently finished my old sketchbook and I always design and bind my own sketchbooks, so I thought why not record it and put it on YouTube. Since it's a bit of a ritualistic experience, I really enjoy making my own sketchbooks and I can highly recommend it, especially if you're having trouble finishing them and so on. Making your own kind of forces a certain amount of commitment, and it definitely helps me quite a bit to keep moving forward. So also, if you stick around till the end, I'll be drawing in the first page of the sketchbook, so if all you care about is drawing, there's still something for you. For now though, let's start by separating all the sheets from the pad. And let's not forget the piece of cardboard at the end of the sketch pad, which is going to serve as our sketchbook cover. I don't know what it is about making a sketchbook that I like so much, but something always feels very kind of magical almost. There's this idea of moving forward, of having finished something and now creating the next sort of sketchbook, while being able to, close and put away the old one. It's a very, very real sense of progression that I get from doing this kind of stuff. And also kind of not really knowing what's gonna be in this sketchbook is exciting. So I really enjoy that sort of little mystery of it. I also find it just inherently very satisfying, just handling all of this paper, which is so pristine and clean, and there's something about it that just feels right. The sounds are so nice, the sound of paper, and doing this in silence without anything in the background, just really focusing on this is very, very meditative. Especially at a time where I feel like I'm constantly bombarded with notifications and social media and all of this stuff. It sort of feels always like a nice break from things. Okay, and now comes kind of the most fun part, I guess, but also the most tedious one, which is designing the cover. So I also find this to be very enjoyable because each sketchbook kind of has its own little character, and it feels like I'm already committing to something whenever I create the sketchbook cover. And I also basically always use the same kind of design rules. I always have these rectangles on the cover, and I always try to come up with some pattern that I can apply to the cover, but they're always different. So there's consistency amongst them, but there's also a sort of progression and story, and I really like that aspect of it, the fact that they're growing kind of with my art skills as well, and my taste is evolving, and so are my sketchbooks. And as you can see, I made this checkered pattern, and now I'm gonna go in with a Sharpie. And the way I do this is very tedious. I basically first go in with the thick part of the Sharpie, and I just kind of fill in the rectangles very, very loosely, so to say, because I don't want to risk going over the lines. And this is sped up 20 times now, but it's a very long kind of process. And afterwards, I go in and I clean up a bit the edges of these rectangles to make it a bit more nice, a bit more clean, right? And yeah, usually the result is pretty good. Sometimes I make mistakes because I get distracted, but this time I actually managed to get it all relatively mistakeless, and I was happy about that. Even though these patterns are relatively simple, it can be tricky to come up with a new idea every time because I've made so many at this point. So I was happy with how different this one was from the previous ones that I've made. And now we can already make a little bit of a test here to see how it feels, how it looks, and I think it's coming along pretty good. It's always nice to put all the signature inside of the cover, even if it's not bound yet, it starts coming together and it's a very nice feeling. It's very rewarding. Okay, and to finish up the covers, I usually use a thick black marker to darken the edges of the cover. This makes the pattern pop a lot more, of course, and it also gives it this kind of almost printed look. Makes it look a lot more finished in my opinion. And I really like that personally. I think it looks super dope when the edges are black, and I don't know. I'm very happy with how this turned out. Okay, so to finish it up, I actually thought I would add some contrast to the cover. And at first I actually thought I could do a little checkered pattern or something, but at some point I actually made a mistake. So I thought, you know what, let's just fill out all of the squares and just leave the tiny squares to be bright. And also it really did not turn out dark at all, so I made a second pass of this even though I don't show it in the video. And this is kind of the final look of it. I'm also going to add a black border to the inside because I want to glue in a little print, and I want to have the same border that I have on the outside of the cover. And actually I'm also going to fill in the edges of the cover. So this is really gonna pull everything together and kind of make it look like there is a little frame to the cover, which I really like and always makes it look very polished. Admittedly, I went a little crazy with the glue here. I do not recommend this. And it kind of like got a bit messy when I tried to put on the print. But sometimes I've had the opposite problem where I don't glue things on properly, so I wanted to be safe this time. But maybe I just put it too close to the edge, and I've learned my lesson for the next time. You know, this is also a learning experience every time. Like any iterative process, you are going to get better as you do it more and more. Okay, and there we have it. There's basically only one thing left to do on the cover, and it's just to add the holes that we're gonna use for the binding. And now we have to find a way to transfer those holes onto the signatures themselves. So I think the easiest way here usually is to just take the cover, put it on top, trace quote unquote the holes onto the first signature, and then just kind of use a ruler to trace down a line onto each signature. But I'm not really sure if this is the most efficient way. It feels like a very silly way to do this, but I never really could come up with a better system. So this is just how I do it every time. And now we're just going to add the holes to each signature following the marks we previously put. And yeah, I chopped this up quite a bit because it's very long and it's not really that interesting. And also this is not really meant to be a tutorial or anything. I will leave in the description any useful links on how to actually bind your sketchbook. But this was more meant to be like a video showcasing the whole process, beginning to end, on how I make my own sketchbooks. And yeah, there we have it. Now we are almost ready to start binding it. Alright, and now we're ready to start binding the thing. The whole process of bookbinding took me around an hour and a half, but I always love the bookbinding part because I know that I'm so close to being done with it, and it's just kind of the last piece of the puzzle. And as you go on with it, it starts feeling more and more like a sketchbook, and it's just a very satisfying thing to see it take form underneath your eyes. It's also just very tedious, of course, because the thread tends to tangle, and I always work with very long thread because I don't want to replace it during the binding, but in the end it's always worth it. It always feels so good to cut off that piece and just know that you're now done with the binding part of the sketchbook. I think the binding turned out pretty good. I always struggle with binding the top cover, but yeah, I think it turned out pretty nice. I'm very happy with it. And there's actually something I forgot. Usually I put a little pocket on the inner back of the sketchbook because sometimes I just have like loose pieces of paper, or I want to have some extra stuff, maybe some screen tones that I carry around or whatever it is. So I always buy these ones from Traveler's Company. They work pretty fine. I don't think that's what they're meant to be used for, but it works. And so here we have our little Lucky Charm ready to go. Okay, it's officially finished. Here's some of my old sketchbooks just to give you an idea of how I've been designing them in the past. And yeah, now we have our newest edition, which I am very happy about and excited to be drawing in. And if you want to see me now quote unquote ruin the first page, you can just stick around and I'll start doing that. For those of you more familiar with my channel, you might know that I often draw trees. I find drawing trees very liberating, kind of. There's not a lot of pressure in drawing trees, and I guess I usually don't really use pencil when I do this kind of drawing, but still, because it was the first page of the sketchbook, I just wanted to make sure that I had something that was in the right place and looking alright. And I also wanted to use some screen tone, which I bought some screen tone a long time ago, but I never really ended up using it very much because it's just so tedious, to be honest. And but I think now is a good time to start and get back into it. So because I'm using screen tone in the first page of the sketchbook, hopefully this will serve me as a reminder to use it a bit more within the sketchbook itself, because that's usually how I treat the first page, kind of. I just put, you know, in the last sketchbook I had cubes or whatever, and the goal of that was to remind me to study perspective. And this time I just kind of would like to be a bit more experimentative with style and different mediums. So yeah, and I'm hatching here some of the trunk shapes out. It's kind of like almost carving the shapes out of wood. It's very, very fun, very entertaining for me to do this. I really enjoy it, because it's kind of like a, I don't know, it's a meditative thing again, and kind of fits to finish this video now, to draw something that feels like this, and trying to not close every shape at the top. This is also something I've been trying to do a bit more, to leave some shape open to imply kind of some of the lighting that's going to be in the scene. And I'm also darkening some of the transition parts of the shadows before now adding the screen tone, which is a pain in the ass to cut out, so I don't show it in the video very much. But yeah, I mean, it's really annoying to go around the whole drawing and cut out every single piece. But overall I like the look of screen tone. It's just that it's also very expensive. It's very difficult to find somehow, and so I don't really usually use it. Alright, that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you would like to see me draw some more into the sketchbook, you can just follow the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.